So we see as we enter the last bit of the book, the last book, book 12, Epilogue. So, epilogue is, as we know, that all the threads of the story, drama, they are brought together, tied together, making it a complete story. So, the story started in book 1, canto 1, and it started with the day when Satyavan must die. But Sri Aurobindo describes this day as the dawn of, he doesn't use the word new creation, but it is a new creation because there is a divine event that is going to take place. But between the divine event, there is the huge fathomless mind of night alone, which is the resistance. So a new creation has to be established, a new dawn has to arrive, a new effort has to be made, but between that effort, its fulfillment, there is this night which is going to resist. That's what we saw in book 1, canto 1. It starts from that moment, and there is an interesting line, earth lay abandoned upon the globe. So earth is abandoned as if unwhirling in this universe. But then to bring hope to earth, we see the advent of Savitri. Savitri has come, a bringer of hope of a new dawn. And then there is the whole story unfolds. From book 1, canto 3, how did Savitri come? We see yoga of Ashupati, his tapasya, his sadhana, he brings, it's all in flashback. Savitri comes down to earth to redeem earth and mankind. And then we see Savitri's yoga, and she goes, in fact, she goes first. She finds those with whom the new creation has to be created. That's what Satyavan is. Satyavan is the soul of man, which, though in ignorance, yet is ready for the new creation. We can put it like that. It's in ignorance, but it is seeking for something. That's what we see about Satyavan. So Satyavan is seeking to find the bridge that can join earth and heaven. And then Savitri and Satyavan are married, and they are told that, look, there is only 1 year, death is inevitable. So Savitri undertakes a yoga, arms herself to fight against death, and then we see the story reconnecting in the book of death, book 8. So there we see that the same day, dawn which is described in book 1, canto 1, we see that Sri Aurobindo once again comes back to that dawn. Savitri wakes up and she prays, and then she goes into the forest with Satyavan. Satyavan dies, and she follows Satyavan right into the darkest worlds, rescues him from there. Then Satyavan and Savitri are taken to the bright worlds, everlasting day. They are told, you can take a seat here, live permanently in these heights. Savitri refuses. She says, no, my work is on earth. Together we have to create heaven upon earth. And so they are finally, the boon is sanctioned, they come back. So basically, by the time they come back, it is evening beginning to show up. So the whole story is roughly about how many hours? Maybe 18 hours. And the rest is flashbacks. So it's about 18 hours story which has been described through all these 724 pages, nearly 24,000 lines. But what is the story trying to tell us? There are many things. One is, it is interesting that Sri Aurobindo uses the word conjugal love conquering death. It's something amazing. So, you see, of all the most challenging tasks upon earth, I can vouchsafe that anybody who has tried challenging tasks, there are people on the border who take the challenge of death. There are those who deal with supercomputer. There are those who send mission to Mars and Sun. But the most difficult, challenging task is a perfect love manifesting in a human relationship. It may sound very strange. I can see a lot of smiling faces, and the reason is very simple. Human beings are the most evolved and most complex creatures. No rocket, no supercomputer has this kind of an evolutionary capacity and unpredictability. And it can completely branch out in different realms of the future. So it is actually, if we look at it, it is the most challenging task. If we take it in the real sense, not like, okay, two people live together like death describes, two dogs tied through the same leash, not that way, but genuinely. So it is conjugal love conquering death. Sri Aurobindo makes it very clear, and that's how the story is. And if that can be done, it is like the peak of ultimate. If you have solved the enigma of man, creation, why he is here, then in that lies all other enigmas lie embedded in that. So, how to solve the enigma? We see that there is a three-stage evolution. And first is when man is in ignorance, but he is seeking something very vaguely, he doesn't know how to seek it. He seeks it through religion, there is sense of the beyond. He dabbles in occultism. Oh, there are forces, greater things, astrology and various things he tries to understand. And then there is philosophical understanding of life, systems of thoughts, etc. he builds. But he doesn't find. This is the first step. Then he leaves all these efforts at earth and enters into a direct spiritual contact and spiritual experience. This we know. So he goes, it's like a narrow path he takes. Earth is to be, for the moment, left here, and you take a narrow path and enter into higher and vaster realms. After that, now most yogas will end here. We have found there is a greater truth. That's it. Nothing else is needed. So our purpose on earth is over. That's how they would put it. But Sri Aurobindo says not so. We have not really understood the intent of God in this world. So that's what we see in this powerful canto, the return to earth. We have to come back. So all the things of earthly life that we are taught you must leave behind, they have to be not left behind but refined and transformed. The purpose is a divine life upon earth. The purpose is not abandoning life, but temporarily one has to detach from the lower creation, from the play of the ego, from the desired self, discover the greater self, but then come back. Now, is it possible to live a life like that without the ego self, without the desired self? This is the challenge. And Sri Aurobindo says, yes, it is possible. We have not tried it, but we see in Savitri that this possibility is what is revealed to us. And in book 12, it is revealed to us very, very powerfully. And this book is so beautiful with such images. That is something amazing. Sri Aurobindo's eye for details. You see, he is not just telling a story. He is telling a story in the most beautiful way. So that's something which is amazing. Epilogue, book 12, Epilogue, the return to earth. This is place where the victory has to be established. In one of the letters of Sri Aurobindo to the mother when she is in Japan, Sri Aurobindo writes, heavens we have conquered, but earth we have not. This is the whole problem. And then we understand why on this earth we see so much chaos. People, matter doesn't respond. The physical world is not open to the divine. Physical world is a place where inconscient has the strongest hold. That's why even when you drive away all tendencies from the mind, thoughts, emotions and vital will, still in the body it takes roots because it's the stronghold of inconscient. So this is where she must win the victory. And now Sri Aurobindo starts this has 3-4 movements. First is Sri Aurobindo describes that Savitri comes back, settles upon her. She sees Satyavan lying by her side, innocent child, he is sleeping. Like all of us, we don't know, mother has carried us through God knows what. First movement is that. How she looks at Satyavan. I was reading earlier, I think I mentioned that sometimes there is a place in Savitri, in book 5. Sri Aurobindo describes just one moment over 2.5, 3 pages. What is the moment? When Satyavan and Savitri look at each other. This is something so amazing. So here it takes 2 pages to describe just that she is there and what is everything around, how she looks at Satyavan. Then the second movement is when Satyavan wakes up and there is a little bit of dialogue between them. That is so remarkable. And the third is when the king and everybody come searching for them. There is a search party and they go back. So we start with this first one. Out of abysmal trance her spirit woke. She had gone in a state of trance, left the body, because when we see book 8, the suggestion is that she had left the body. There is a description how she goes through the leaves and everything and goes through the other worlds. So she has come back. She wakes up to earth. Lain on the earth mother's calm, inconscient breast. She saw the green-clad branches lean above, guarding her sleep with their enchanted life. When we read through these passages, there is something very strange. At least it struck me as something very interesting. Shobinda has described all the worlds in Savitri, higher worlds, heavens, gods, beings, and ultimately she goes to the supreme. But every time it describes the earth, you feel there is something extraordinarily beautiful about this, which you don't find anywhere. You see, just see this description. It is so rich. She saw the green-clad branches Lain above, guarding her sleep with their enchanted life. So we can think of Savitri gone into a meditative posture, and all these branches are leaning over her and guarding her, because no harm should come to her when she leaves the body. We know how mother would leave her body and she would want someone to be around so that, because that's a dangerous thing to do. She didn't advise her disciples to do it, but she had a work to do and she would do it. And there would be someone guarding all the time so that nothing comes to, no harm, because these forces can come. When she was in Algeria, then her own preceptor, who was actually the emanation of death, he had actually cut her cord. Because he asked her when she went high up, he couldn't go, but he knew the way, but he couldn't go. It required too much of purity and courage, so she goes all the way. And then he says, "What have you found?" She says, "I have found the mantra of life." "Oh, give it to me, give it to me." She says, "No, you are not the adhikari." So he gets very angry, cuts the cord. And that means death. Then mother says that, with her tremendous occult knowledge, and he also got frightened, what has he done? So ultimately they join and she comes back. So she had experienced all these things. She finally came and gave this mantra of life to Sri Aurobindo. She had that. This mantra of life can literally revive the dead, but that's not what it is to be used for. So this is how we see that she comes back and she is being guarding her sleep with their enchanted life, and overhead a blue-winged ecstasy. So this is a bird which is a blue-winged ecstasy. Only Sri Aurobindo can describe like that. Fluttered from bough to bough with high-pitched calls. So the whole nature has to be in that mood. When Savitri is being born, Sri Aurobindo describes all nature was at beauty's festival. See, this is what we find in our rich literature. When Krishna is born, so we see that prisons open and Yamuna is in spate. She's trying to touch the feet of the Lord, and all around, all the flowers are blooming. Why? Because they recognize that something has happened. So suddenly this bird with blue wings is fluttering from bough to bough with a high-pitched call into the magic secrecy of the woods, peering through an emerald lattice window of leaves. Just to imagine that. Emerald, green, lattice window, because leaves are crisscrossing. So they are a window to the sky and the sun. So that's how nature has created windows. With all our development and architecture, we cannot imitate this. It's something amazing, nature's art. It creates windows this way, it creates doors, and we see the description when Satyavan invites her to his home. It says, there are spaces guarded like this, and the trees are there as subjects of my king. They come and they are in the court. My father is still the king. And there are these trees which are, every day they come and stand in the court together. So look at this description again. In indolent skies reclined, the thinning day. Day is reclining. Why it is reclining? It is entering into a sleep mode. Sri Aurobindo is not saying it is towards the late afternoon. It's going to be evening. So the day is reclining. That's how he's seeing. It's going to sleep. In indolent skies reclined, the thinning day turned to its slow fall into evening's peace. So that's how the day is slowly saying, okay, I want to sleep now. And it is reclining on the indolent skies. It's a bed which has been made. She pressed, now look at the details. She pressed the living body of Satyavan on her body's wordless joy to be and breathe. She bore the blissful burden of his head. This is Shingaras in the divine sense. It's not like, okay, she came back and she says, Satyavan, wake up, you are alive, I have won the battle. This is not life, it is beauty. The Lord is all beauty and all bliss. So Satyavan's head is felt like a blissful burden because suddenly she has come out of trance. It's a minute detail. When you come out of trance, you feel your thighs and everything is numb. And she feels Satyavan's head, but it's a joy. And she pressed his body. So, these lines, she pressed the living body of Satyavan on her body's wordless joy to be and breathe. She bore the blissful burden of his head between her breast's warm labor of delight. So she takes him and puts his head onto her bosom and holds him there for a while. See those expressions of love. The waking gladness of her members felt the weight of heaven in his limbs. A touch summing the whole felicity of things. See, this is the magic of love. Everything else is there in all the worlds. You see, if you go to hear about Indralok, this lok, that lok, everything is there. What is special about earth is love. This love you don't find. Actually, you read the story, you don't find it. Somehow all the love stories are taking place upon earth. And Mother said, because human beings have a psychic being. For gods, it's like just a pastime. In fact, they have joys, they have music, they have dance, they also battle. All this they do. But have you seen that in all these heavens, what is missing is love. And here on earth, this story of love, the drama of love unfolds. So, she is experiencing his touch, his limbs as heavenly, the weight of heaven, summing up the whole felicity of things. And all her life was conscious of his life, and all her being rejoiced enfolding his. So this is the circle of love, circle of embrace which she is experiencing. He is still asleep, innocent baby. The immense remoteness of her trance had passed. Human she was once more, earth's Savitri. So it is not to cancel things on earth. It's not that after realizing you become a Babaji, you start saying, I am a Babaji now. No, I can't. I can't be with you. I can't. Look at the beauty. She becomes human again. Now this what we see, something very amazing about Indian stories, which we have forgotten to connect with. Ramayana. Rama is divine, Rama is human. At the same time, we can say he is divinely human. And even first the crow doesn't understand who is this. And then later on we see that even Sati Mata, she says, who is this? Shiva, you are saying, Hey Parabrahma Parameshwaram Sachidananda Brahma. Look at him. See, we have forgotten this. For us now, Brahmalin. When you read all this, no? Brahmalin, 100,000 baat, 8 bar, so and so. No, Brahman is here. And it can be realized. And in waking life, Shri Krishna is, who can be more Brahmalin than Yogeshwar Krishna? But Krishna in the battlefield, is he less Brahmalin? He is described as Yogeshwar. And he is charioteering the whole and going through the entire passage. So we see Rama with Sita, and when Sita is taken away, he is crying, asking every leaf, where is my Janki? Where is my Janki? And Sati tells Shiva, something is amiss. You have forgot, it seems deluded. You can't see. He's just an ordinary human being. And then Shiva says, I may be deluded once in a while, but you are completely deluded. You have missed the mystery of God's birth in time. And so she goes to test him. See, look at, this is the ideal which our ancient Indian culture had brought. Later on it fell down and we became all this otherworldly. The lesser clothes you wear, the greater a yogi you are. And if you can sleep on bed of nails, like the Asuric tapasvis, he is a great yogi. Somebody once told me on Ardhukumbh, Ujjain, Shipra Nadi, Hari, bahut bade sadhu hai. There's a big sadhu. I said, what happened about sadhu? He's lying on thorns for a long time. Let's go and see. I said, you go and see. I have no interest in seeing such cruel practices. Shri Krishna says in the Gita, They despise my presence in the body. So, Krishna in the body has to be loved, cherished, fostered. What has to be removed are the band of spirit's enemies, whose names are desire, wrath, lust, greed, fear, but not the Krishna who is inside. So this where we see once again, human she was once more, earth Savitri, yet felt in her illimitable change. A power dwelt in her soul too great for earth. A bliss lived in her heart too large for heaven. Light too intense for thought, and love too boundless for earth's emotions lit her skies of mind and spread through her deep and happy seas of soul. Seas of soul. So this is her being now. So this is a description when the limitless joins the limited. So even the heavens are limited, earth is limited. But there is the infinite. When that invades and our being begins to share the infinity of the divine, then this state comes. This is the ideal that Sri Aurobindo wants us to have. See, that's why it's because we don't understand this. This is the original, thing that Indian thought, Sanatana Dharma wanted to create. And that's why people with that otherworldly thing can't understand Krishna. Who is Krishna? Why is Krishna? And people even further reduce him through all the WhatsApp, this Krishna is this, Krishna is that. Who is Krishna? Krishna, first of all, is Yogeshwar. He's not just a human being forgiving people and doing this. He's Yogeshwar. Then only. He's the divine who has taken a human birth. And one cannot understand his mystery because when one looks at his life, there is fullness, there is richness. All the 16 kalas are in him. He knows how to battle and he knows how to love, he knows how to forgive, and he knows how to avenge when it is necessary to maintain the justice of life. This is Krishna and much more. He is love and bliss and strength and wisdom all together in a single body. So that is what they wanted to create in India, and that's how it will be, and from here spread to the whole world. All that is sacred in the world drew near to the divine passivity of mood. So what was being drawn to her, she has become an empty, that she had become earlier also. We see in book 7, after which she is armed to meet. But all that is beautiful and sacred is coming. Even if something enters which is unlovely, it will change. This is how Sri Aurobindo describes the supramental being. So ill will enters, it changes its character and nature. It will naturally draw things which are sacred, beautiful, sublime. So this is the change in Savitri. A marvelous voice of silence breathed its thoughts. So what's the voice of silence? So we have these 4 levels of speech. The stir which one can find hid in the deep folds of silence. So we have these 4 levels of speech, and the original speech, the paravak, the first stir, the onkar, dhvani, that which is hidden in silence, one has to enter into deep trance to discover it. That is the one which is speaking through her. Her voice itself becomes the sounding and the chanting of Om. Just imagine, that's why Mother says, Savitri, every line is Om. So that's how the change happens. A marvelous voice of silence breathed its thoughts. All things in time and space, all things in time and space she had taken for hers. In her they moved, by her they lived and were. The whole wide world clung to her for delight, created for a rapt embrace of love. One such being is enough. So the whole world comes to her because they can't taste delight, it's so difficult. But coming near her, they felt delight. The squirrels, the donkey, last, of course, even human beings, and vegetables and flowers and different moods of nature, the gods, the titans, they came to her and clung to her for delight. That is what she has become. And what she would do, she will give them all her rapt embrace of love. That's what the mother says several places. Somebody said, Mother, were you angry at me? She says at one place, if ever somebody asks, what is God incapable of? She says, I am incapable of getting angry. Even when she destroys, it is out of love. Now there is no anger. None of these emotions or moods. Everything that she does or doesn't do is an act of love. She is the embodiment of love. Now, in her spaceless self released from bounds, unnumbered years seemed moments, long drawn out, the brilliant time flakes of eternity. She has come from those timeless planes. So she is still in that experience of many yugas which have existed. She has witnessed them like time flakes of eternity. There is a very interesting short piece of writing of Sri Aurobindo where he speaks about marbles of time. So we play marbles. So Sri Aurobindo is seeing that time is playing marbles. And what is in those marbles? Each marble is like a country. Time picks up a marble, throws it out of the window. This is his vision. So they have seen through all this. At one place in Records of Yoga, Sri Aurobindo speaks about all the yugas, all the manus which have come and they are yet to come. The 10 levels of evolution of mankind, the previous stage of evolution, which possibly was on Mars, the next stage which could be on Venus, all this he has seen. And it's just impossible to understand what he was witnessing and seeing. So very often people say, how much Sri Aurobindo wrote? Well, Sri Aurobindo wrote, but there is so much more that he didn't write because we are not yet ready for it. And this is where we see that what is she experiencing? She is still in that spaceless self, though she is here on earth, human, and she has begun to respond to earthly things. She is out of the trance. Out wingings of a bird from its bright home, her earthly morns were radiant flights of joy. All she suddenly sees, all the mornings which have gone by, all that are yet to come. And they are all mother's experiences. She describes at one place how she would experience. She says she went once to palace of one of the kings of France. And suddenly that place came alive with all the beings of that era. With the dresses, with the music, with everything around. And then she knew that she was there. Later on when somebody told her about this place, she said, no, it was not like this. So all of this would suddenly come alive before her. And sometimes while watching a movie, she would say, it didn't happen like this. It was differently because she had experienced all these things of the past, but also of the future. Boundless she was, a form of infinity, absorbed no longer by the moment's beat. Her spirit the unending future felt and lived with all the unbeginning past. That's why she writes in one of her prayers that we give too much importance to earthly realizations. But we must understand that while it is important, there is a work to do here. Yet, we must live in that vastness, that infinity and eternity. Now see how Sri Aurobindo is describing step by step. First is she is back into the body, but her self is still in that boundless state. It has got connected with the body. She has come awake. She has held Satyavan to her bosom, but all this state is still going on in the background. The entire future is appearing before her. Her life was a dawn's victorious opening. So we have come back to that dawn, but this is the victorious dawn. The past and unborn days had joined their dreams, old vanished eves and far arriving noons. Himself hinted to her a vision of prescient hours. That's what Sri Aurobindo says. That's why when he writes in the essays on the Gita, we do not belong to the dawns of the past, but to the noons of the future. He has seen all this. Beautiful dawns, the Vedic rishis, all this. But what is going to come is much greater. The mother herself said, this is something even Sri Ramakrishna told. When someone asked her about people loving her and all this, he said, my child, you don't know. In the age that is going to come, my children will come and love me much more than you can imagine. She had seen that same thing we see Sri Ramakrishna saying, I see a flood of spirituality coming into India and from here spreading to the world. So this is the future age. The Vedic rishis were great, but what is going to come is the Superman. There is a poem somebody wrote in honor of Sri Aurobindo. And the poem name was The Last Rishi. Now you see, it's a dubious name. On one side it is greatening him, on the other side it is demeaning his work. So Dilip Kumar Roy told him, what sir, this poem, how do you take it? Hail last Rishi. So it means all your thing about Superman and all has no meaning. He said, no, it has a meaning. I am the last Rishi. But the Superman is going to come which will be much greater. So he completely changed this sense. He is the last Rishi and the first Superman, if you want to put it. Who transmute. And he says in one of his writings, when he talks about transformation, he says our purpose is not to create either sannyasis, yogis, or saints and sages and seers. That's not our purpose. Not even Superman and like the way we understand. Our purpose is to create divine life where one lives in the divine, lives for the divine, lives by the divine. He says it's something very different. Transformation is not any of the traditional realizations. So suddenly she experiences a reconnection between the past and the future. This is something so important, and I find once again, this is the beauty of Sanatan Dharma. That you see the past connecting with the present and the future. This is the parable of Dashavatar. From the first movement of life appearing in ocean, life climbing in the wild man and the illumined man and in the yogi, there is a connectivity. Who is behind this whole game? It is the divine who is assuming this. So this is what makes it so beautiful, and life in the future. This is something very beautiful. It's not like one book, one person in the past and that's the end of the story. Then we have to it's like turning the clock backward. But here we see we are always moving forward, and there is a link between what happened in the past and what is yet going to come in the future. Absorbed no longer by the moment's beat, her spirit the unending future felt and lived with all the unbeginning past. So the entire unmanifest she has brought with her. Her life was a dawn's victorious opening. Okay. Supine in musing bliss, she lay a while. Now, again, all the time you see Sri Aurobindo connecting the higher and the earth. Supine. So what is, she is such a beautiful moment. She lies supine. And what is she experiencing at that point of time? Given to the wonder of a waking trance. So she is still in that trance, but she is awake. See, this is something again unique to Sri Aurobindo. When mother came to Sri Aurobindo, she asked him one thing. She asked him a few things. One was, why am I so mediocre? See, I know everything, little bit of music, this, that, but I am mediocre. Sri Aurobindo said, but that is very good. Because in this yoga, we want that. Highly specialized beings are not ready for an integral realization because they have to leave that. So this was one thing. Second, she says, I have never experienced this, what is called in India as trance, where people totally forget about the outer life and this thing. Sri Aurobindo's, with his humor reply was, nor have I. Because they were experiencing trance in waking state. And the mother once said, Champaklalji notes it that, Champaklalji is sitting and a couple of them are all around. And mother has gone into trance. Very often she would go, some blessed people had the great fortune that she has put her hand on them and she has gone into trance. Someone was telling me, 45 minutes. I said, what a blessed thing. He said, yes. I was just wishing this continues. She is distributing flowers, suddenly she'll go. But that's what she said suddenly when she comes out. You think that I don't know about you people? I know everything that you are doing. I am conscious of the ticking of the clock and the time and all your thoughts simultaneously. the waking trance. It is literally joining the Chatushpad Brahman. So trance where you forget the outer world is a specialized process. But in this yoga, trance is with the waking, in the waking self and with open eyes. Given to the wonder of a waking trance, half risen then she sent her gaze around as if to recover her old sweet trivial threads. This waking trance also reminds me Sri Aurobindo's life when Nirodha described for hours he would be sitting and looking at the wall without batting the eyelid. And he says, we didn't know what is he doing. He was just looking. And he was in what worlds he was going, what movements. This is something unique, unprecedented. So, I feel so inadequate when we speak about Sri Aurobindo's life. Sitting in one room, he is conducting the affairs of the world and the world war, conducting the destiny of men and nations. What is that consciousness? Just can't imagine. So then she starts looking around to gather the sweet, trivial threads. They are trivial and yet they are sweet. Old, happy thoughts, small, treasured memories, nothing is left out. You see, it's so amazing when we see mother's life, it's so difficult unless we live in that totality or get a glimpse of that totality. When Andre Dai is coming for, after how many, 30 years or something, I'm probably, and see on one side, 30 years, she has not gone to see her son. They've hardly communicated. But then when he is coming, she is ensured that in Golconda he is going to stay, the place is well prepared. She is not saying, it doesn't matter. I have no son, I have na tato, na mata, na bandhu, na bhrata. No. She waits. Then he was supposed to come at a time. And suddenly she tells Pavitra, go and check if there is a telegram lying in the post office. Sure enough, there is a telegram lying that he will be delayed. And the Divine Mother waits for her son to arrive. What a moment it is. We talk about Rama's Bharat Milap. Rama stays for 14 years without an SMS to Bharat. And yet when he meets him, all that love. So it doesn't cancel this. That's what more and more we discover, which is something so beautiful. Old happy thoughts, small treasured memories, and weave them into one immortal day. And one more with regard to Sri Aurobindo when he gets the telegram from his father-in-law that 1918, that Milani has died. So he wants to know the son-in-law's will, because that is the custom. After all, what does he want to do with her things? And Nalnida recounts, teardrop in the eye of the divine. What he writes, he doesn't say, you know what, I have no wife. That is, he says, God has seen to it to lay on my heart the one sorrow which still could touch me. What is it? Human love, divinely human love. And then he says, do with Mrilani's things whatever she had wanted. He's not saying, okay, fine, send me part of the property. Do whatever she wanted. But the Lord wants something of her. But if you can send me a few books which have her signature or name on it, I have nothing of her with me. How do you understand this? 1918, one who is dwelling in Parbrahm, because constantly is linking the highest heights to the earth. This is the kind of humanity, a divine humanity or a superhumanity that he is creating. Ever she held on the paradise of her breast. So in this, nothing is lost, nothing is a waste. So one immortal day it becomes. Ever she held on the paradise of her breast, her lover charmed into a fathomless sleep. Satyavan is asleep, like us. We don't know. Divine Mother is holding us to her heart. We don't even know what is happening in our lives. She is holding her charmed lover. He has gone to a forest. His last words are, Savitri, oh my Savitri, lover of my soul, lean down upon me and give a kiss. Maybe your kiss will save me from death, and it collapses. And Savitri is holding him, and she does all the rest of the drama. Sri Aurobindo's yoga is that simple, provided from the first moment to the last we can say like Satyavan, oh, mother and sister and everything of my soul. I abandon myself to you. There is none else but you. So that's what Satyavan has done. He has not tried to, seek solace or help anywhere else. And then somebody who gives oneself to the divine takes care and fights all the battles. So she is, but soon, Lain like an infant spirit, unaware, lulled on the words of two consenting worlds. So he is traveled, his soul has traveled. Heaven and earth and the darkness, everywhere it has traveled. The darkness has consented and the heavens have consented, and he is now upon earth. He doesn't know what has happened. He is lulled. But soon she leaned down over her loved to call. How she is calling? Shubindu is describing that. His mind back to her with a travelling touch. On his closed eyelids, settled was her still look of strong delight. Not yearning now, but large with limitless joy or sovereign last content. She is calling Satyavan. Not like, oh, wake up, wake up. She is looking at his eyes with fondness and delight. His eyes are closed. And quietly she is calling him back through the mind, come, come, come. And Satyavan would come. So that moment we'll continue in the next session. 10 minutes, 6:10 we will come and we'll start. It's very fascinating, very beautiful. The Leela of the mother. Yoga, we all, this is the beauty of Savitri. People often say, they compare Savitri, life divine, everywhere it's the same truth that way. But there is a difference. Savitri is the only work which contains not only the yoga, the metaphysics and everything, but also the Leela of the divine and his eternal spouse. That makes it unparalleled in significance. It's like Bhagavatam and Gita combined. What it would be for lovers of Krishna? Something on a similar vein. It has the yoga, it has everything that one wants to know. But it has something which none of the works contain. And that is the Leela of the divine Ishvara and the divine Shakti, the divine mother upon earth. In the form of the story of Savitri, Satyavan and King Ashupati.